Welcome back to another episode of Pretend I Don't Know Anything. Once again, special guest, Dr. Brooke Keels here to join us. Hey, Brooke.
Hey, Mike.
How's it going?
It's good.
Good.
Glad to be here. Yeah.
Glad it's Friday.
So glad it's Friday.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning, and I don't do that every week, but sometimes I'm like, one more day.
Yeah. Need a little rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been a long week. It's been a long couple weeks.
Yes.
So I thought there's something I wanted to talk about today. I was talking to one of my friends yesterday. We got sober together. So like my sobriety date's June 27th and his is in October. So pretty close. And like,
yeah,
we lived together in 2009 and we lived together in a sober living. He's going through one of the toughest things you can go through in life in general. He just went through a divorce and we were just catching up. We talk every couple months. It's not, I mean, it's one of those things that comes with recovery in general, is that we can just pick up where we left off. It's like, it doesn't matter if it's been 6 months since we've spoken. It's right. Like, could have been yesterday. We're just never miss a beat. But as we were talking there, I just wanted to check on him, see how he's doing. I know he's been going through all of this. And one of the things he had said was, man, like it makes me so grateful for this process, because no matter what I'm going through, I can be okay. Like I've got my fellowship, I've got my routine. I go to the gym, I go to my meetings. And he's like, man, I've lived in all these different cities sober, and like, no matter where I go, I can create fellowship. I can create friends instantly. Like, it's just, I'm so grateful for this process.
Yeah. And
one of the things that made me think about is I've talked about, and I talk about with some of the guys we work with, about the idea of like the blessing or the curse, right? And I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast at all yet.
I don't think so.
I don't think I brought it up. So I'm going to give just a kind of a quick breakdown. Not that I need to inform you on it, but for everybody else. So the process of the 12 steps is, and everyone I know knows this from TV or radios, the first step is admitting I need help. It's not necessarily what the first step says. It says that I'm powerless over alcohol. My life has become unmanageable. It's really a two-parter. But really what understanding step one is that I am different. I am different from what we call normies, like as if that exists. But I am different from my fellows. So I put a toxin in my body. And when I put that toxin in my body, I reacted differently than what other people react to.
Right.
I always my mom would have like a glass and a half of wine. And she'd go, oh, I'm starting to feel it. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. I thought she was the abnormal one.
Sure. Yeah.
Like the point
Lightweight.
is to be like, yeah, like, give me, then I'll take it. Yeah. Thank you very much. And so, but that's the normal reaction to putting a poison in your body. Like, okay, I've had enough.
Right.
I don't know. It's weirdos, but, so step one is coming to terms with that, right? That idea, I am different from my fellows, as it's phrased in the book. And so, okay, great. I can get that. Step one itself was not something I struggled with. Like, I knew I had a problem. I knew I reacted differently. I didn't know how differently I was reacting than others. Right. I did always have this idea, everybody partied like I did. And when I got sober, I realized that wasn't the case.
Right.
But I did know I was different, and that I was an alcoholic and an addict, and it was a problem for me. Step two in the process is came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. So the terminology came to believe is a process. It's stating that it's a process of belief. It's not an expectation that you have this in place now.
Right.
So came to believe, but it's two parts. A, came to believe a power greater than myself. B, could restore me to sanity. So then my thought was in that, okay, I'm different than other people. And as the book lays it out, it's not a developed difference. Like, it is a intrinsic difference, right? So it's not, I developed this. I'm different with that. And then, okay, now I'm supposed to say, okay, there's this God out here. There's something that created me. And so my first question is, well, why did you give me this curse? Why do I have this? Why not some other person? Why did it come to me? And that was exactly where I was in the process.
Yeah.
Like, this is bullshit is how I felt like.
Yeah.
And, it had been a long, rough road for me. Like,
Yeah.
I was on a significant losing streak, I would
Right.
say, right? Coming
It
in,
wasn't going well?
it was not going well.
Okay.
Yeah, my plans were not working out well. And so all this loss, all this pain, all this stuff that had gone on, well, why me? Why do I have to go through it? So at the time, it did feel like a curse. It felt like I was cursed. And though, hey, I don't want to keep living this way, so I'm going to continue to follow this process. So I really don't like where it's going at this point in time.
And I don't like that I have to do it.
And I don't like, because who wants to do this? Like, who would want to go and write inventory and then go face their wrongs, write inventory and then disclose that to somebody, right? And then go face my wrongs in an attempt to rectify them and amend my relationships, and then go be of service to people and do that on a daily basis. Like, this all sounds pretty terrible. So anyway, in that moment, I really felt this is a curse, but I'm going to continue on with this. And then somewhere in that process, I realized it wasn't a curse anymore. That what I had, it was really a blessing. That having to do this and having to look at myself and having to develop a relationship with what probably my favorite term for it is the great reality that lies within this idea of God or the universe or the higher power. And developing that relationship that's personal to me, living my life to the best of my ability, showing up for people, participating in relationships, building my self-worth back, learning to love myself, which I didn't do before I ever started using, right? Like all of these things that came to me through that process, but then that I could face life successfully, that I could handle whatever was thrown to me. I mean, I held my father's hand while he died in the hospital, 5 years sober, and I didn't go run and get high over it. I didn't go and drink at my feelings. I faced it. What I did was I called people that I knew cared about me. Right. I did prayer and meditation, and I turned my thoughts to helping my family and showing up for them, as hard as it was, but I could do this successfully. And so when he was talking about, I'm going through this, I just went through this. It's all final, but like he's just out the other side of it.
Yeah.
That's what I immediately thought of. It's like the curse and the blessing. What seemed so horrific to both of us at that time when we were both getting sober has now turned out to be the best thing that could have ever happened to us. Right. Or no matter what it is that's going on, I have a set of mechanisms that I can use to walk through anything that's going on and be okay. Yep. And not everybody gets that privilege. Nope. In fact, most people don't. Yep. Yeah. And so anyway, this is where I am with it. Like this thought or this idea. I want to hear your take as a normie and as a clinician and somebody that's worked in this field for so long. Like, what do you see with this?
I mean, I feel exactly the same way, and I see it, and it's easy for me on the other side of it. And I'll talk about just like from the clinical standpoint, it's so exciting to watch people wrestle with this and implement it into their lives, because right now the only conversation is whether I should drink or not, or smoke weed or not, or do, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, there are so many other things coming your way, so many great things and so many really bad things. And this is a structure for your life that will ensure that you are as healthy as you can possibly be, that you live in a community with people that care about you and understand, that you have tools to grieve, to walk through tragedy or whatever comes your way, and also when things are really good, you have a community to enjoy that with. Like, I am so passionate, like we were, and anybody can insert whatever they want, but my belief is we were created to be in community, and we are failing at that miserably. But it is one thing that AA, 12 steps, and even some of the other recovery programs that I think try to avoid that community piece are actually realizing like we have to have this. We have to talk to people through our joy and our sorrows.
Mhm.
And that is how we get healthier. We get healthier, with other people. We get
Mhm.
healthier in a group. And then, and so on the other side of it as a normie, I'm like, who do you know that's really healthy that hasn't walked through hell?
Yeah.
Nobody like got here in
Mhm.
a good place because they didn't have to crawl and fight their way towards it,
Mhm.
and I think you can either, reach your goals and be miserable, or we can reach our goals and be incredibly healthy and build things that we didn't even realize were out there. And I hear a lot of guys say, especially like our older guys that maybe didn't start this process till they were in their 30s. Maybe they had a career and a marriage and all of that, but they never thought it would be good.
Mhm.
They never thought their marriage would be good, or that their
Mhm.
relationship with their kids would be good, or with their family, or that they would just be okay with everyone else not being okay.
Yeah, that's why when I was getting sober, I thought I didn't want to be married. I didn't
Right.
want to have kids.
Right.
I'm like, oh, I'll just screw all that up anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want
More
that.
people to
Well,
disappoint?
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
no thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's crazy how I just love it, and I love working, with these guys that are like they get healthy now and they've done all this work over the course of 6 months, and we have touched on this before, and then their spouse or their family is like now all their crazy can kind of come out, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yes, you just provided them the space to do that."
Yeah.
What an honor that
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
Like, that is a big deal, and when they are okay with everyone kinda freaking out
Mhm.
because they have this structure, because they have this community, because
Mhm.
every night they take their own inventory and not
Mhm.
someone else's, that they know what they're resentful or offended by, because bitterness will destroy you,
Yeah.
and they walk through all of that, and they allow everyone else in their life to then go get healed and healthy,
Yeah.
and that is I just respect that so much, and you're right. I have not gotten there as quickly as you have in some
Mhm.
ways, because I didn't have the experience you had. I didn't burn it all down in a different way. And so
Yeah.
some of us hold on in these secret unhealthy things that they don't get burned out,
Yeah.
until, thankfully in this field, obviously I better hold myself accountable to the things I'm saying, because you will get called out too.
Mhm.
Like you can't,
Yeah.
what do you say? What am I thinking? You can't bull crap a bull crapper kind of
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
but so it sounds a lot better with the other word, I
I
think,
mean, I
but
think we can just say it.
you can't, yeah,
Yeah, I think
you
it's
say
okay
it. I
now.
just don't want to
So,
make my mom cry if she like
oh,
ever
okay.
listens to
Yeah.
this.
All right.
So,
I got you. I
so,
got you.
you
And
know,
I don't want to face her judgment, so
oh, she would just be
I
so sad.
I already cussed
She's
once in the
so, oh
podcast.
no,
So
it's
yeah.
okay that you do.
Oh,
I
okay.
just
All
can't.
right.
It's fine.
Okay. So bullshit of
Yeah,
bullshitters. All right. Yeah.
that's exactly
Uh-huh.
it, thank you. Yeah, her 70th birthday's coming up, so I gotta really,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, one day. Anyway, but yeah, so it's, I get to kind of vicariously do it, and again, I mean, I think that just you
Well,
know
and
how
Taylor, you
much.
can bleep that stuff out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So if we need to,
Oh, do you want me to add a bleep sound effect?
I mean, yeah, we can just like
No,
let it rip and
no,
then
my mom would freak out. Yeah, no, she started. It's a
Can we
long
just like
anyway.
randomly bleep things that she says and make it look like she's saying things
Make
really?
it, say it. Ooh, yeah, no, I actually don't care that much, but she has been getting really into our podcast, so I'm
Oh,
a
good.
yep. So
Alright.
anyway, yeah. So
Okay.
I'm just being careful.
All right. Okay.
So, whatever makes it less
Uh-huh.
weird, you just do that. I don't care.
Well, hello, Mrs. Keels. This one's for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Owens. Don't call her
Oh,
Keels.
Owens. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, my
Okay.
dad loves it when people call him Mr. Keels.
Okay.
So, anyway,
That's
that's
right.
our own things
That's
we
right.
have to work through
Yes.
separately. So yeah. So anyway, I mean, and obviously you being, what are you, how many years down now?
15.
15 years.
Yeah.
Right. Down the road, like when you see somebody wrestling with this where you were,
Mm-hmm.
like I hate it for them in some ways, but I'm like, you don't know what good is coming. And I just get so excited. And I feel like that's part of what we get to do, though, is we get to champion people
Yeah.
and go, this feels like the end of the world, but I promise you it's
Mhm.
not, as evidenced by,
Yeah.
all these people around us who have built a life
Mhm.
for 15 years. you
Well,
know.
I mean, I couldn't grasp that,
Of
like I
course.
couldn't, like my first, in AA or in 12-step groups, AA, CA, whatever, they'll do, sobriety chips for your sobriety birthday. Your first year, it's like 30, 60, 90, 6 months, 9 months, and then a year. After that, it generally goes just year to year. And when it's the year, once a month, generally any AA meeting will do like their birthday night once a month. And anybody that got a year in that month comes in to get their chip. You're really not supposed to get it before your actual year. So like I'm June 27th. So let's say like a birthday night happened June 25th.
Yeah.
I got to wait till July birthday night.
Got it.
And you come get a chip.
What an arbitrary rule.
I know. It's more
structure.
No. It's
not intentional at all. Got it.
I'm blanking here. Superstitious than anything else. So it's like this idea that, well, if I get my chip before the day, maybe I don't make it.
Well, I'm very superstitious with sports. So if I can be it with that, how much more with sobriety? So in recovery, fair.
So, but my first birthday night meeting, because I was not, prior to actually getting involved in AA, I never gone to a meeting. I was very judgmental. So my first birthday night meeting, not that I'm any less judgmental that night, because I'm watching people come up and get a year chip, and they're all smiling and happy with their year chip, and they come up and they talk, and generally some of their family members might be there, and maybe their sponsor introduces them or somebody it's important in their journey, introducing them to get the chip, and I'm sitting in the back of the room. And there were two people at that meeting. It was this guy and this girl who were both getting their year chip and were dating, right?
Sure.
And they were pretty involved in the group, very involved in the group. They were kind of like, there's in any meeting, there's kind of people that are like, I don't want to say leaders in the meeting, but kind of, because they've been around for a little while anyway. And so they're talking about how great life is, and which is what the whole point of it is, to give hope to the newcomer.
Right.
Like you don't get the chip really to celebrate yourself, because like I'm just doing these simple things and I'm making mistakes all the time, but it's to show, hey, anybody can do this. If I can, you can.
Right.
So I'm sitting there and I'm watching them. I'm going, I don't believe you. I don't believe it. Like, you're so full of crap.
I'm sorry,
Mrs. Owens. You're so full of crap. And really, I thought, you're not as bad as I am, because I'll never get a year, or you're getting high and you're lying about it. That's what I thought about it in that moment. So I had no ability to,
as do most of our guys that have over 120 IQs.
Yeah.
That's a lot of the,
What are you trying to sell me here?
Yeah.
And I still wasn't entirely sure that AA wasn't a cult,
Sure.
Yeah, at that time. So, anyway, but yeah, with that, like, I couldn't visualize, like, for myself, like, that life was going to be good.
Right.
Or that I'd be capable of things. It was literally, I just couldn't continue to live the way I was. And so anything was better than that. Right. Like, even if I ended up just, single in a rundown apartment, like, it was better than the way I was living before.
Yeah. And
so to think that things would actually get good. And in meetings, when they read the promises, every step has promises in the book associated with it. And when they read the promises, I'm like, maybe for you, buddy, like that wouldn't be for me. So to look at somebody with 15 years sober that like has a life I have now was totally foreign to me. Like, there's no way that's a possibility for me,
Which is why I think two things, by the way. One of my favorite things is when people usually it's an SOP, but sometimes it's a year later and they're like, the promises are true. Like, they're happening, and it's just when it's just incredible. I just love that so much. But but even you're right. Like, I can't imagine seeing somebody 15 years down the road. And I think at some level, if you have vision, you can maybe be like, I mean, I'd like that, but like, did he really feel the way I feel, or did he really, and that's why we go, let's look at what's tangibly happening, and kind of my never ending. I hear what you say. I believe what you do. Let's look at actions. Let's look at, you can't deny right? Healthy family, you can't deny, like all of these things. Let's look at that instead of
Mhm.
how you feel in your head or think in your head or disqualify somebody based off of no evidence whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that by just the function of that's the right thing to do that we all do really well is like, oh, you don't have to believe me.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm
Yeah.
just saying notice these other things or see,
Mhm.
or like you talk about, like when guys are roommates with somebody who's further down the road and they see them
Yes.
going to work and doing,
Mhm.
having, being able to be with family without a blow up or
Mhm.
date well. And,
Yeah.
what that looks like, that matters when you can pull out and let's just look at what they're doing.
Yeah.
Look
Look
at
at the
how they're
actions they're
yeah.
taking and like
Yeah.
how that's turning out for them.
Mm-hmm.
I will say though, my very first meeting, there was something that was impactful in there. Is it was a men's meeting, and it was noon on a Saturday men's AA meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my first AA meeting ever. I'd never stepped foot in one. And I walked in, and they started saying step one when they saw me, which I had no idea what that meant. But like they were saying, we need a topic that's step one because this dude is broken, right? Like they saw me and were like, he needs help. Like we're going to talk about
Yeah.
experience, strength, and hope around step one. And they were talking about experience, strength, and hope around step one. And they were describing exactly how I felt
Yep.
and how I'd been feeling, but they were laughing. They were smiling.
Not laughing at you.
Not laughing at
laughing
me, but
about
like
it.
about
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah.
how, and I was crying,
Right.
like when I realized that this group of men, strangers, knew, because I felt so alone, alone in it.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had nowhere to turn, nobody to talk to about this. And nobody could understand how awful I was and how horrible I felt about myself. But when they started talking about that, but they were happy, like it was maybe the most, but at least in those early stages, the most impactful thing that could have happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what I would say I necessarily wanted what they had, but I realized that they didn't feel how I was feeling at this moment anymore. And that was attractive to me.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I didn't have to be this miserable all the time.
Yep.
Not that there could be like an actual successful life from that, but just like, God, I don't have to hate myself all the time.
Right.
That would be really nice.
And I'm not alone.
Yeah. And I'm not alone.
Not the only one.
Yeah.
I remember I had a client that described like stepping into this process, and he was like, I feel like I am in a welded box, like the steel box that's welded shut underneath the ground. And I was like,
that is horrifying.
That is really bad. Yeah. I
Yeah.
was like, that's really scary. And
it was literally my worst nightmare.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like yes, I'd get hit by a train and I'm right there with you.
Uh-huh.
And so I mean, that level of hopelessness, but then to hear, and it's even the small things. And that's why I think, just instead of like judging people, that we just keep offering, hear this, see this, different people say things different ways, and just showing up for people where they can feel like they're not in a steel box under the ground. That alone is huge. And that sounds like that's what they did for you. Like you didn't walk in there, probably you're just like, I just know I'm just here.
My roommate made me go.
Right.
Like I didn't want to do this. He's like, get up, we're going to.
Yeah. And you probably weren't looking for any hope in it or whatever it was, but when they show up well, when the community shows up well, it invites you into an opportunity.
Yeah. No, I thought I was
hear
walking
something.
into a room full of morons.
Sure.
That's what I thought it was.
And 50-50. Like who knows?
Yeah.
But,
yeah, that's probably accurate. But still,
as
like,
all the world is, But
But I was like, all these dumb people that do this,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, but that was my experience when I read the book too. I'm like, I'm definitely not alone because I wrote this thing in 1938. And I'm like, and they were describing me.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
I was like, how the hell do they know me?
Yeah.
That's, it really freaked me out.
Did you meet me? Like, where was I?
I realized I had a problem when I was 17. Like I was
Yeah.
17 years old, and I'm like, I am an alcoholic and an addict. Like this is a problem.
Right.
I wasn't delusional about having a problem. I was delusional about the solution for that problem.
Right.
Right. So here I was at 29. So 12 years I've been living under this delusion that I am completely alone in this and nobody understands me.
Right. And the solution is within me as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Everything lies with me.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And then, well, and if I can just make the puzzle pieces fit right, it will be okay. So it's just like this right combination that I haven't been able to work out yet, this Rubik's Cube. And if I can just get it down, everything, the picture will be
I'm
beautiful.
a smart guy.
Yeah,
I'll get it.
Yeah. And that was the delusion I was in. And I had to do it. There was nobody that could help me do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to do this. And so then when I couldn't and I kept failing, then I'm just horrible and I just suck and I'm a failure once again.
Right.
And, use that to beat myself up more.
Yep.
Well, I mean, and that's the pattern. So, when I'm talking to new guys or newcomers, I'm not talking to them about like, yeah, man, like life's amazing, like, my God, my daughters are going to graduate high school next year and my son just got his own apartment and, like, look at Lighthouse and all the great people I get to work with. And I just went on vacation with my family for 10 days in Mexico. And like my sister trusts me and calls me for advice. And now extended family does that. And, and nobody could depend on me. I was absolutely undependable and completely dishonest to everybody I talked to. And now this is what they can't. They don't.
19-year-old Mike would be like, "Oh well."
Yeah.
Then, No, you talked to him about how you tried to fit all the puzzle pieces together over and over, and it didn't work. Yeah, and that's where people feel seen.
Yeah,
and I'm not judging you for it. I did it too.
No, I did it. Yeah,
and you're not happy, right? Yeah. Right. Okay. Then maybe there's some other options.
And it isn't all your fault.
Nope.
It's not all your fault. Isn't. Like you don't have to just keep loading up your gun and shooting at yourself over it. Like it's not all that.
Yeah. Because that just will feed it never. And I think that's the thing people can't even understand too. And I think it's like, if you take this thing away from me, then I'm left with my own thoughts, and my thoughts have been so horrible for so long, and it's heartbreaking, but it's like, yes, we have to take this thing away so you can sit with your thoughts and feelings and we can walk you through healing that and disrupting those patterns. Mm-hmm. This substance or this thing over here that you keep using to manage them is only making it bigger.
Yeah. Your solution is killing you.
Yep.
It is killing you. Yep. And it does not make those thoughts go away. Mm-mm. It doesn't make the grief go away.
Right.
It doesn't. All it does is numb it out.
Doesn't make your family better. Doesn't make your girlfriend better.
It doesn't heal your shame or your trauma.
Yeah.
All it does is numb it out temporarily, and it sits there and festers. It only gets worse.
Yeah.
And I know from the grief angle, especially losing my mom at 22 and not really grieving that till I was 29. It was just as real for me at 29 as it was at 22. It hurt just as bad.
Yep.
When I had to step into it later. And I'd had these moments like, these drunken times where I would cry and sob over it, but it never healed it. I didn't process. I didn't work through it.
Right.
Not that it doesn't hurt still. Of course it does, but it's.
Yeah. But the difference between avoiding grief in the midst of grieving and having grieved, right? It doesn't make it not, it's always interesting to me. It's like grieving something doesn't make it not sad anymore, but it's not controlling you and you're not operating out of it.
Yes.
That's the difference is like, we don't want to operate out of avoiding grief or grief. Like when you walk through the process, it doesn't inform everything you do that day or everything you try to avoid that day.
Yeah.
And that's what's freeing about it. It's not that you forget somebody or move on, or now you're happy, I wasn't, but now I am. Like it's, you're never going to be happy about awful things happening, but they don't have to.
Nor should you be.
Yeah. They don't have to be the lens that you function in in the world or see the world through. You don't have to be bound by them.
Well, it's like, it's similar with the shame and guilt stuff too. Like I should feel guilty. That can be healthy.
Yep.
But hating myself because of it, that's unhealthy. Right. And
will just help you keep doing things that make you feel guilty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Over and over again. Yeah.
It's just fun.
Just keeps us in the cycle. And then treating it with the drugs and alcohol is not only just continuing the cycle, it's creating a spiral, not just a cycle,
Yep.
right? Like those things get worse and worse. It's one of those AA things. Like all of the things I said I wasn't going to do, then I just start checking that list off. And suddenly that list starts getting real short, it could be 20 items. Like I would never do that. Like I would never smoke crack.
Yeah.
I would never be picking up cigarette butts outside the Boston Public Library. Check,
Right.
and like just start checking these things off.
Yeah. That's actually a really interesting exercise that I don't know that I've ever deliberately done, maybe like just randomly, but yeah, like what are the things, if somebody's like in the midst of all of this, it's like, what are the things that you thought you would never do and have done? Right. And so, and then understanding like that there is a way out of that.
Yeah.
Because that's the other part is like, oh, now I'm doing things I never thought I would do. And so I have to either be completely delusional about it and pretend none of this is happening.
Yeah.
Or I'm just so disgusted with myself that I have to make myself be completely delusional about this.
Or I keep numbing that out.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I'm like chasing that. I've got to numb this out. You get to the point where it's like that solution, no longer do you think it's going to make things better. It just, the thought every day it'll just make it okay. Like it will make it so that I can face the day.
Yeah.
And that's delusional too. Like it doesn't, I know it's not the same for everybody, but for me, it got to that point where I was just as miserable and suicidal when I was high as I was sober. Like it stopped working. There was no solution to it anymore. I could not put enough chemicals in my body to be okay.
Right.
Sober, high, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
For a lot of years it worked. Like for a lot of years it was very effective. And I was only in this bad spot sober. Not necessarily. Because I was like bad drunken nights, but like,
But you like had a job, like I feel like people will kind of have these things. Well, if I still have this, then I'm fine.
Oh, it was always the girl.
Right. Oh, if you have a girl, you're good.
Like the jobs and all that too, of course. But like, no matter how like horrible it was, if like she'll be with me, it's not that bad. That was, I literally thought that. Like, my brother and I were laughing about it because they came and they tried not really an intervention, but like, dude, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Kind of meeting. And this apartment
effective.
I had, and it was disgusting. But I had a girl in my bed. And so they came in and I'm like,
you see what's in there?
Yeah. Like, the apartment's trashed and disgusting and smells terrible. And there's like a dead tarantula in a cage, but like, it's not that bad,
And she was super healthy, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Really brought a lot to the table.
Yeah. It was.
I would like to circle back to the tarantula. I don't think I ever knew that you had a tarantula.
I can tell the story real quick. So my roommate, my poor roommate, like Chief. We talk now. We started communicating again. I'm not going to use his real name, but we called him Chief. So Chief, and I had this apartment. It was awful. And like the poor guy, because it wasn't him. It was 90% me. But he certainly was not going to come clean up behind me either. So it just went into complete shambles. So anyway, at one point, Chief, I think, got a black emperor scorpion. So they're like, if you ever see them, they're not venomous, but they're huge, big black scorpions. And so we had an aquarium tank with this big black emperor scorpion. I mean, and they're like this long when they're fully grown. And we named him Shaft because he was a bad mother. And then my friend Jake found a tarantula in his girlfriend's backyard, just climbing up a wall. And so we decided.
Wait, are tarantulas in the wild?
Yeah.
They like live in the world?
Yeah. Well, in El Paso. I grew up in El Paso.
Okay.
So this is in El Paso. I'm like 20 years old.
Okay.
So there's a big UFC fight, and we decided we're going to get the UFC fight.
Yep.
And we put a piece of cardboard in the aquarium. So we separated Shaft, our pet, and this feral tarantula we caught. and then we're gonna have the UFC fight, and then we're gonna have the tarantula and the scorpion fight each other.
Right.
Sounds awesome. In theory, they didn't fight. They totally got along. They were like best buds. And then they both ended up dying in the
Oh, no.
aquarium because
Uh-huh.
I wasn't a good caretaker
Uh-huh.
of anything, including myself. But yeah, that's how I had a Ted tarantula.
That's great.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a podcast worthy story.
I just love that I know this now. Yeah, you can delete it. I mean, whatever, but that's great.
We should keep it on. People
Yeah.
know more about me. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm a human.
Yeah. Your animals now are all fine. You
My
are
animals
obsessed
now
with them
are
now.
my babies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So just
No.
in case anyone was concerned out there.
No, absolutely. And like I clearly was
No
not in my
animal has
right
had a
mind at
better
this
life.
time. I've
Yeah.
always loved animals. I was not in my right mind, and luckily like they didn't harm each other. I just
Look, they
didn't take
went
care of them.
as friends.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
like best buds. It was a bad time.
it was but Chief didn't take care of them either, is what I'm hearing.
No, Chief, I don't.
So it really wasn't you alone.
No, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. Chief owns 50% of that. I'll totally give that there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I don't know if the scorpion may not have died. I don't remember. It was the scorpion. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. But yes, my animals now are like babies.
Yeah.
Yeah. My Otis the pit bull and Ziggy the Frenchie and Toki the rabbit are very well taken care of.
Yes.
They are pampered.
You're pampered.
They are pampered.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. I know. I feel like you do more vet visits than anybody.
We go to the vet like twice a month to make sure everything's good. And,
Yeah.
you know, I tell them get their manicures, their little pedicures done, and
Yep. Living their life.
they get a bath every Saturday.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I should
They're
probably.
very pampered.
Yeah. My dog is good too though. He's well
Mhm.
taken care of.
Wow.
Well, all that to say though, sorry I did take us off. But like, yeah, that is a pattern, right? Is like picking out the things that go, well, if I have this, then everything's okay. You know, and
God, I forgot where we even started with that.
look, I know it's my fault. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I took us.
Well, with my ADD, you know, like I gotta.
Yeah, but I mean, like you're saying, you're like, well, I mean, how many people are like, well, I've got the girl, or I've
Mhm.
got, the guy, or I've got the job, or I've got, it's like
Mhm.
how we justify. And one of my kind of favorite things to ask people is like, but are you happy?
Yeah.
Like, are you at peace?
Are you content?
Are you content? Are you at rest? Do you have
Mhm.
joy? And like the way watching people think through those questions, and asking that from a standpoint of there's more than just checking these boxes, whether you struggle with substances or not, like justifying that everything in my life is okay because I have a job or a good job or whatever. Like that's one thing that's good, but that is not.
Yeah.
I mean, I would ask anybody, but are you at peace? Are you, are you
Yeah.
content? Do you have joy? Do you have healthy relationships where, it's a give and take? It's not transactional. Like all of these things in life, I feel like we can just settle, but especially our substance abuse brethren really pick low bars to justify.
Well, the bar gets lower and lower.
Right.
Right. But like when I was homeless, I had a girlfriend and a job. Most of the time I was homeless, I had a job.
Right.
And I had a girlfriend the whole time I was homeless.
Right.
And the same girlfriend.
Right.
She stuck with me.
Yeah.
Which.
That's a strong. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
about her, but that's fine. She's out there in the world. We won't make it about her.
No, it's definitely not about her.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a large section of that I was lying to her, and like she just never came
to your house.
Just hung out at her apartment. I hope so.
Yeah,
I was
like, I have
highly
a dead tarantula
manipulative.
at mine, so
Yeah. I was highly
Yeah.
manipulative, extremely
Yeah,
dishonest.
yeah.
Always had an excuse,
But like on paper, minus like the housing part.
Yeah.
Well, because to you, you're like, well, I have a place to stay.
No, yeah, but it was also like I would not admit to myself. This is like where the delusion was really strong because I would not admit to myself I was actually homeless.
Right.
And I would not, though I was cooking cocaine and smoking crack, I would say I was not a crackhead.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like these other people, like, and my delusion was so strong and my ego so strong that I was like, I this is not,
Right.
I'm not like this. Like, I don't go to a shelter. I don't go to a food kitchen, like a
Right.
soup kitchen.
Because that would make you actually
That's
homeless.
actually homeless.
Right.
Right. Like sleeping in the movie theater all day because I've been walking for 3 days isn't actually homeless.
Right.
In,
Different.
in my mind.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. There were a couple experiences that like started to break, that really broke that for me. The first one was the guy coming up to me. I'm picking up cigarette butts outside the Boston Public Library.
Right.
And he's like, "Hey man, you hungry?" You know, he goes, "Soup kitchen around the corner." I'm like, "Do I look like I need a soup kitchen?" I got all offended, you know, and he's like, "Yeah, you're picking up cigarette butts and smoking them, like rolling them into rolling paper." And then this guy that actually I did a lot of drugs with and delivered drugs to him. One day he told me, like, he goes, "But you're homeless." Like, it was just, to him, it was normal. It was not normal to me. He knew I was homeless. Like, it wasn't like he was delivering some shocking news from his standpoint.
Right.
To me, it was, because I didn't see myself
You're
that
like,
way.
what?
You mean I'm homeless?
Yeah.
And then the third was where I had this experience. I was on Calm Avenue on a park bench in the spring. And it was like a cold spring rain. Maybe it wasn't the spring. It may have been the fall. I always say the spring because that's what, but it may have been the fall. I don't know, but it was this cold day in Boston, and the cold rain is worse than snow because you can kind of dust snow off. But you're in the cold rain, like you get wet to the bone. It was like 40 degrees maybe, and sprinkling, not like full rain, but just like constant. And I had all of these drugs on me. And I had this messenger bag because I wasn't homeless, so I carried a messenger bag. And anyway,
I can walk into an office at any moment.
At any moment, yeah. That was such a mess. And I had a phone back when you had to pay for minutes, you know? So I had no minutes on the phone. But I had it because I was playing this poker game on it against the phone.
I thought you were going to say snake. So
no, it had a poker game on it. So I'm just sitting here playing this poker game over and over and over again, and I'm strung out. Like, I'm incredibly high because I have drugs, so I'm very high, and I keep going to the payphone and calling people to get them to let me into their apartments. And I'm like, "I will give you cocaine if you let me in. Like, I got to get out of here. I'll get you high, like whatever." And nobody would let me in. And this went on, I don't know how long, for a few hours, right? Yeah. I'm like doing this shuffle, walking around the corner onto Boylston, making a phone call from a payphone outside of 7-Eleven at Kenmore Square, walking back over, doing the same thing. And finally, I'm like, I had this epiphany that I was just all alone. I'm like, I am all alone in this world. Like, there's nobody here, just me. And then I decided in that moment that I would just do powder cocaine and drink and take pills and smoke pot. That would be
reasonable
okay.
Adjustment.
Yeah. And if I did that, and the reality is, if I did that, I could get everything back on track. Like, I'm not homeless in that state necessarily. But then once again, full-blown relapse. So I did get back on that and kind of rebuilt again. And then, you know, next thing you know, I'm cooking cocaine in my house and in this apartment I'm renting, and I'm broke. It's still the money. I burn everybody and burn every bridge around me. And yeah, it was the rebuild that had really gotten me too. Like, I just can't keep losing and rebuilding. It was so hard, starting from less than zero over and over again.
Right.
You know?
So everything you have described sounds awful and like really hard and very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is interesting because typically, like, that's the fear. Like, comparing that to getting healthy, to working the steps, to, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, clearly what I was going through was way worse than the process of recovery.
Right.
Like
But it
way
doesn't
worse.
feel that way.
It doesn't feel that way.
Right?
But there's this terror too. Like, you ever watch the show Hoarders?
No, I can't. I
Okay.
can't. Yeah.
So I don't watch. I've seen it a few times.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm not judging. I just can't.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not something I watch because of that. Like, I
Yeah.
can't go through that over. But I've watched it a few times, and there's this fear on the people's
Mhm.
faces.
Yep.
Like, when they come in and they're like, "We are taking all of your trash
Yep.
and we are getting rid of it."
Yeah.
This.
And I've seen enough to know exactly what you're talking. Like,
Yeah.
we're just going to take these magazines from 50 years ago
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, "No!" Like, it is their.
Yeah.
It's this. I get that. Like, I know that feeling so well, because
Yep.
that is the exact same fear I had of not having drugs and alcohol.
Mhm.
But I never really when I was using, I didn't consider myself an alcoholic either. I was very delusional about that, because I didn't shake. That was the bar.
Right.
If you shake when you could quit drinking, then you're an alcoholic. And
Right.
if you don't,
Mhm.
you just throw up for 3 days,
Right. Couple
you're not.
seizures. We're fine.
you're okay. So
Yeah.
that was my thought. So, but it was the absolute fear of losing that. Like, I know this is killing me.
Mm.
I know I don't want to live with it. I know I can't live with it and be successful. And I'm absolutely terrified of letting it go or it getting taken away from me. Like, those hoarders in their house, and they're looking at all of this trash piled up.
Mhm.
Like, their bar has slowly lowered over time to be living in that,
Yep.
you know? And they know that this is terrible. And most of them are incredibly ashamed to have anybody see their house in the
Yep.
way they are living. Same thing with drugs. It was the same thing, but then they're absolutely terrified of losing it, as crazy as that seems to anybody.
Yep.
My wife said something when we were first getting sober, and it was like, I'll always hold on to it. But until the fear of staying the same was greater than the fear of change,
Yeah.
I could not change.
Yeah.
And that's like that was absolutely my truth.
Right.
I had to be more terrified of continuing to live the way I was than
Mhm.
changing it.
Yep.
And I guess in that sense, though, in AA, we talk about, like, fear is, the evil and corroding thread.
Mhm.
But in that, it was extremely motivating. I
Yeah.
cannot continue to live like that. As for me, I can't go back to living like that. I
Yeah.
was on the verge of ending up there again, and I could not do it again.
Well, and you have no idea what healthy even means. Like, I
Yeah.
have no idea. So you're right. It's got to be like, I don't know what next is, but it cannot be this anymore.
Yes.
And sometimes that is literally the only decision. And
Yeah.
I think a great one,
Yeah.
to just be open to, I don't know what comes, but it can't be this.
Yeah.
And I love it when people get to that place, because, and we see people who kind of try and toe the line, and how can I sort of hold on to and it just doesn't work, but that's okay. Like, that's their process to figure it out. But when someone has come to the end of themselves, like, I don't know what all this is over here,
Yeah.
but it has to be better than that.
Yeah.
Or at least I'm willing to look at it. Like, that is surrendered to me.
No, absolutely.
Like,
but I see that happen in sobriety too.
Yes.
Right? Like, this thought that everybody has to absolutely tap out and be like, all right, help me, and
Right.
throw up their hands before they can get well is total BS.
Right.
It is a bunch of bull crap. It is.
Yes. Yeah.
Because like, I just went on and painted a pretty clear picture of how irrational and delusional I was.
Right.
So had I maybe been given a window to, like, think a little bit more clearly,
Right.
then maybe I could have surrendered in that moment. Right. I watched that happen. I actually see that happen more often than that state I was in.
Yeah.
Where it was like just complete surrender. Like, in my intervention, I just said, yeah, I'm doing all of this, and if you can help me, help me. Like, I was in just complete surrender, because otherwise I'm going to kill myself. So do something about it.
Right.
That is rare. It's rare that we find that.
Yeah. But you're right. We do, or not we. The narrative, I think, is that. Like
Yes.
how someone can get to the end of themselves without it being that.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yeah.
ideally,
Yeah.
that is the case.
And look,
You know,
like,
or at least that they're just open to, okay, you're right, this isn't great, or
yeah.
I really don't want those consequences, and
Uh-huh.
if that's, you know, if it's these consequences or this, well, let's go see what's over here. Great.
Well, and sometimes it's just let's remove the substances,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're feeling their emotions,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, this is what I've been doing. Like,
Mhm.
I need to work on this stuff." Then they can recognize it and they can work on that, and that
Yeah.
happens way more often than what I went through with
Yeah.
my story.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people out there that look at what I went through and they're like, high bottom. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
it can always be worse.
Yeah.
It can always get worse.
Yeah.
Well, Guy, I hope this gives somebody some hope out there.
Yeah.
You
me
know,
too.
as it is really an incredible thing. Like it, yeah, I didn't do anything special to earn it either. You know, like I'm not extraordinary. It's really available for anybody that just puts one foot in front of the other.
Yep.
You know,
That's right.
so
Thanks for talking to me about this.
yeah, thanks, Brooke.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And poor Shaft. And
I learned a lot about tarantulas. We're
yeah,
gonna have to talk about it after.
Yeah.
I didn't know they existed in
Yeah.
the world, out in the wild. So
and
It's a
thanks
new-
everybody for joining us for another episode of Pretend I Don't Know Anything.